Okay, so we already showed you Boeing, which is really boosting the Dow Jones Industrials, but let's show you how defense stocks other than Boeing are jacking up the markets with about 43 minutes to go in the trading session. Traders knew that the $300 billion worth of deals in connection with this weekend's visit to Saudi Arabia was coming. But included in those transactions, nearly $110 billion in arms deals. And we're not talking about swords, the likes of what you see in the hands of the Saudi hosts here and President Trump in Riyadh. We are talking about ships, planes, and parts. The defense sector up today in the wake of the news. It is really driving the markets. Names like Lockheed Martin to on Raytheon. How about General Dynamics? They are posting decent gains here, anywhere from 0.2% to 1.5%. Other companies getting a boost from Saudi deal making include General Electric, Exxon, Honeywell, and yes, Berkshire Hathaway. Warren Buffett's precision cast parts. It's under that umbrella. Makes those parts that allow the F-35 to stop midair and hover. It's a jet that hovers, Austin. You ever seen that? It's beyond cool. I got to see it at the Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting 2 weeks ago. Plus, Berkshire's moving higher on a Barron's bounce. Barron's says that it could double its gains over the next year and a half, even if Warren Buffett steps down. All right, is the president gaining some political momentum during his trip? Here to talk about it, Horizon Investments Chief Global Strategist Greg Valliere and Democratic political analyst Cathy Areu. Greg, when he left, his approval ratings were not great. But something tells us that they will be better upon the return because he, so far, is looking very presidential. He's being fair. He's going both to the Palestinians and the Israelis, to the Saudis, and then to the Pope. What do you think is going to happen?
Well, the big thing, perhaps, is that no one's talking much about Russia. I think we've got another several days where that cools down. We get Comey testifying in another week or so, Liz. But I think for now, a little hiatus, a little respite on Russia helps him as well.
Cathy, there's a deal that's been struck, and that is certainly good news for U.S. companies. But what jumps out at you from this trip?
Well, he has been presidential, and we haven't been hearing much about Russia, so that does stand out from this trip. So I am impressed with the way that he has been behaving. We're not quite sure what's going to happen with the Saudis. Is this good? Are they going to use these weapons in the future with their situation with Yemen? What's going to come out of this? So there are some uncertainties, but in the long run, it does look like it's going to be good for our economy. So good for Mr. Trump, good for President Trump on this trip.
Okay. Let's get to the economy, but more importantly, perhaps the budget. Now, tomorrow, the official unveiling is happening. We had gotten some idea of what would be in the budget. And, of course, there were a lot of cuts to things like, anti-poverty programs. But there were outright, we're not funding this anymore, names like the National Endowment for the Arts and for PBS. Greg, he's balancing that out with a lot of spending on military. Can we pay for all of this without ballooning the deficit?
Well, the problem for him is going to be that moderate Republicans, not Democrats, but Republicans are going to resist really, really deep cuts. I think that's going to be difficult. The other point I'd make, Liz, is that I wasn't great at math in high school, but for him to say we're going to have 3% GDP growth with interest rates not really going up much, first of all, there aren't enough workers. In state after state, the labor market has gotten incredibly tight. So the math, to me, does not add up. I think the tax cuts are still alive. I think the spending cuts will be watered down a lot.
Cathy, I'm looking at cuts. Now, again, this was when President Trump issued his first idea of the budget. It may have changed. But slashing health and human services, commerce, State Department.
The EPA, I mean, and what's going to happen to Medicaid and what's going to happen to SHIP.
But you have to agree that there's bloat. We have to cut some spending.
Right, but there's bloat in the military as well. From what I understand, there's one civilian for every active duty member. So right now, we don't need what he's anticipating for the military. We actually don't need that kind of military spending. So if you look at the bloat in the military spending alone, that's a little bit odd. So we need Medicaid. We need to help America's less fortunate, let's say. And that's just not happening. We're giving up our teachers' incomes for military spending. So it's soldiers versus teachers. And that's not healthy at all. It doesn't seem like a healthy budget. Okay. And I don't think that Congress is actually going to like this budget at all. It's not going to pass.
Well, again, it's a starting point. But, Greg,
right.
We just got the news as I was sitting down here on the set right before 3 p.m. Eastern that Mike Pence is going to go to Capitol Hill, talk to Kevin Brady of the House Ways and Means Committee about tax reform. Yes or no? Are we going to get tax reform done in 2017?
We'll get it done. 2017 could be a stretch. A lot of big issues. The big one tomorrow is this border adjustment tax. I'm sure Brady and Pence will be talking about that. We'll get it done, but this is a glacial process. I think it may be another 10 months before it's finally wrapped up.
Okay. It does take a long time, and we'll be watching. Thanks to both of you. Greg Valliere, Horizon Investments Chief Global Strategist, and Democratic Political Analyst Cathy Areu.